Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargav. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. It's been a year of the COVID crisis in India, the economic crisis and also the health crisis. You will recall that it was just about a year ago when the first COVID case was found in Kerala on 27th January 2020. We were then on the threshold of a budget to be presented, and we are again on the threshold of a union budget to be presented by the finance minister on Monday. As we said, it's been a year. The COVID pandemic, the COVID crisis has been considered to be a once in a century event, and this was a debilitating event for the global economy. 90% of nations in the world have witnessed their economies contracting on account of COVID. Global GDP has gone down by 3%, resulting in an output loss of $5 trillion. And global merchandise trade has also gone down by 9.2%. That's been the kind of impact. When COVID came, India's healthcare systems were anyway weak and inadequate. Our public finances were fragile and our treasury was near empty. And because of that, the government decided to go in for the most stringent lockdown possible in order to minimize the damage to lives, with the thought that if lives are protected, livelihood will anyway come back. The government thus decided to go in for ensuring that essentials are available, and it launched the biggest ever in the world food subsidy program, because of which 81 crore Indians have benefited. As we said, the purpose was to save lives at any cost. The government, in respect of fiscal stimuluses, decided to adopt a wait and watch attitude, and it was done in order to conserve finances. Because of that, the government did not front load a fiscal stimulus as we call it. The purpose was to see how do things pan out, and thereafter steps would be taken. Let's see what has happened in this year since the lockdown was imposed by the government in the third week of March 2020. What we have seen is that the economy has contracted. The economy in this financial year is expected to contract by 7.7%. It started with the economy contracting by 23.9% in the first quarter of this financial year. The second quarter, it contracted by 7.5%. We do not know what was the extent of contraction or otherwise in the case of the third quarter, because the government for some reason has not released the figures. But the net result will be that in this financial year, the economy will contract by 7.7% as per the government's estimate. Our estimate happens to be a little more. While the contraction went on, what we witnessed in all these months was consumption went down, exports went down, core sector growth went down, industrial production went down, bank loans also decreased, tax collections were not up to the mark, joblessness went up because jobs were lost, and the most important, confidence of the consumer and the producer were both eroded. While jobs etc. went down, a few other parameters went up, though not in the best of manners. Liquidity went up in the system because Reserve Bank initiated a loose and favorable monetary policy, but this liquidity did not get translated into incremental bank loans in a big way. NPAs in the finance and banking sector both went up. The government's fiscal deficit went up. Its borrowings in this financial year have touched 12 lakh crores against a target of 7.8 lakh crores. Inflation remained buoyant. The forex reserves of the country shot up substantially. Stock market indices like the Sensex have gone up because of all the cheap FPI flowing into the Indian stock markets. The government levied heavy taxes on auto fuel such that petrol and diesel prices have gone up substantially, and business closures went up because of the economic crisis. This is what we have witnessed in the past few months. We also witnessed that the crisis, the COVID crisis, both in terms of economy and health, peaked sometime in September 2020. The government continued to wait and watch and did not come out with any substantial fiscal stimulus package. It claims that its fiscal stimulus package has been to the tune of about 27 lakh crores. The reality is, according to us, it was just about 4 lakh crores, which is about 2% of India's GDP. Further, in order to stop the burgeoning and resurgence of yet another round of NPAs, the Reserve Bank came up with certain measures. A moratorium was announced on bank loans till August and it was extended further. Restructuring was then permitted by banks, especially for viable units, again to prevent the recognition and build-up of NPAs. And then came the Supreme Court order, which said that NPAs cannot be recognized beyond August 2020 till it comes out with its final order. During this period, India also witnessed the most shocking and shameful migrant worker crisis, and many workers are yet to come back to the urban territories. During this time, the government initiated its PLI scheme in a bigger way for more products in order to attract FDI in the country. And of course, because of COVID, because of the need for defense spending, because of the need for the government to spend, and because of the need to spend rapidly on ramping up infrastructure in the country, a massive pressure came on government finances, on the government treasury. This is what we witnessed in the past year because of the COVID crisis that was there in India. It is in this background of the state of the economy on account of the COVID crisis that the government presented the Economic Survey 2021 before the Parliament yesterday. The Economic Survey of the country is meant to be a white paper which talks about the state of the economy in a very real and unbiased manner. It is prepared by the Chief Economic Advisor and not by the Finance Minister. And as we said, it is supposed to talk the complete truth about the state of the economy. Let's see what were the key takeaways from yesterday's economic survey which has been presented before the Parliament. The first one it says is that the government did an excellent job in imposing a very stringent lockdown in order to battle the COVID crisis. That was done according to it in order to save lives, in order to save livelihood and minimize the crisis that can happen in the worst possible situation. It gives a lot of marks to the government for having battled the COVID crisis in this manner. The survey then says that there has been a V-shaped recovery in the economy. We really do not understand why the government has been obsessed about labeling the recovery as V-shaped from time to time since the past few months. In our opinion, it has not been a V-shaped recovery, but nevertheless, this is what the survey also contains. It further says that in view of India's growth rate and growth potential, it has the potential to borrow even more and spend. It thus nudges the government to say that you can borrow more and spend, which is what the need of the hour is. And according to it, when the growth rate is good, debt borrowing by the government in such a condition is very sustainable, which is India's case. The survey then makes an interesting point, and that's regarding India's sovereign rating. India's sovereign rating at the moment is BBB minus, which is the lowest investment grade rating. It says that this sovereign rating does not reflect the reality about the Indian economy and India as a nation. It points out that a fifth largest economy of the world generally has a AAA rating, which is the highest possible, and we have the lowest possible investment grade rating, which is BBB minus. It says that our rating has to be much more, and for that the survey cites a number of reasons. It says that India's GDP has been growing. We have a good ease of doing business in the country according to us. It then says India is a country where the rule of law prevails. The government debt is low according to it. Inflation is in control. There is political stability in India. India has a zero track record in the matter of any sovereign default. We have never ever defaulted on a sovereign repayments. Corruption remains controlled in India according to it. And India is a nation which gives investor protection. It is for these reasons that the economic survey says that India's sovereign rating is not correct. It ought to be much better, and probably it tells the rating agencies to reconsider their decision. It then suggests that India needs to increase its expenditure on healthcare from about 1% of GDP today to at least 2.5 to 3%. It then makes a candid confession, and the confession is that India's administrative processes are suffering not because of poor compliance by the public, but because of over-regulation and opacity and lack of transparency in administration by the government. It says that this is because of over-regulation primarily, and it cites that even in the case of a company which has got no dispute or debt, it takes on an average 1,570 days to liquidate the company, which is unthinkable and extremely high. And that's because of over-regulation in the country. The economic survey then says that India's banking crisis has been because of extended regulatory forbearance, as it says, between the years 2008 to 2015. It says that there was leniency at the regulatory level in order to delay the recognition of NPAs by the system, and that led to massive window dressing of accounts by banks. Poor governance set in the banks. Restructuring took place even of the most unviable units in a multiple manner. In fact, it says that such units got restructured, their loans were restructured 7 times, and then the NPAs double, all because of regulatory forbearance. And it says that something like this should not be repeated. It further says that access to bare necessities in India has gone up across the board almost in every state. It then says that fiscal focus is essential and the government must continue to ensure that its fiscal policy focuses on provision of essential items as against non-essential items. It then points out that India ramped up its fiscal support and policy when it started unlocking the lockdown, and that coincided with a lot of monetary policy support that came from the RBI. It thus talks about all these events that were witnessed during the crisis that took place. If you look at it, it bypasses talking about the problems that we face, the crisis that the country faces. And that is why we say that the economic survey this time is more drafted by a Neta than by an economist. It bypasses the challenges we face. It is biased, it is not complete. There is no whisper or recognition of the problems or the crisis that we face in the country. And what are they? It doesn't talk about joblessness. It doesn't talk about the stalled investments. It doesn't talk about the fact that inflation has been high. It doesn't talk about what do you do to alleviate the crisis that the MSME sector and the informal sector faces. It does not talk about the measures that need to be taken in order to increase India's exports. It does not talk about the fact that the core sector, consisting of 8 crucial industries, has been shrinking. It does not even consider or talk about the fact that the index of industrial production has generally been going down, NPAs have gone up, the banking and financial system is shaky, and consumer confidence is eroded. The economic survey does not talk about this real condition or state of the economy, and thus we say that is truly not complete. It's biased. It looks like more designed by a Neta than by an unbiased economist. We of course agree when the economic survey says that the sovereign rating given to India does not reflect the reality. But then even a document like the economic survey to us does not reflect the reality, it bypasses it. If the government itself is shying away from recognizing the reality, how do you expect international agencies to do that? After all, when these kind of documents are presented, which do not talk about the truth of the economy as we face, the credibility of the government statement suffers, and perhaps that gets reflected on even the sovereign ratings that we get. This is Akhilesh Bhargav signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Hello everyone. HW News English is 2 years old now. When we started this venture, we promised ourselves one thing, that news should remain free, because right to know is the right of every Indian. But to keep news free for everyone, we need support from some of you. And thus we have rolled out membership on our YouTube channel HW News English. But mind you, the membership is completely voluntary. The programs that we were doing earlier, that we are doing now, will continue to remain free. First level is a basic level. Here, you can be our supporter by paying Rs 199 per month. This membership gives you certain perks and benefits. The perks include unique badges in front of your name, a live show from Mr. Sujit Nair and from Mr. Akhilesh Bhargava per month for our members. You can also vote in some exclusive members-only polls. Now the second level is Super Supporter. Here you can be our Super Supporter by paying Rs 3,999 per month. This membership will include every perk that comes with basic level. Additionally, our Super Supporters can be a part of a WhatsApp group where we can have discussions and suggestions on various topics. The second perk includes a gift pack with our merchandise. And the third perk is a Google Meet with Mr. Sujit Nair, where you can join the meet and ask your questions to Mr. Nair face to face. Lastly, if you like, we would give a shout out to our super supporters in our programs. So, hope to see you soon with our badges.